Honorable scientists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the Beacons of Research Journey organized by the Council of the Hong Kong Laureate Forum, also known as the HKLF. This is Patricia Young, and it's my pleasure hosting for you this morning. Well, today we're very happy to have all of you. The Beacons of Research Journey serves as a prelude to the second Hong Kong Laureate Forum, a world-class academic exchange event scheduled for the 5th to the 8th of November this year. Yesterday, we had the privilege of hearing from a diverse group of speakers who shared their insights on the latest advancements at the interdisciplinary trends and innovations. The discussions discussed how collaboration across disciplines can drive innovation, improve research outcomes, and address complex challenges in our society. And this morning, we'll focus on another topic, research career development. Navigating a career in research can be both rewarding and challenging. Whether you're just starting your journey or looking to advance your career, today we'll provide you with valuable insights, strategies, and resources to help you thrive in the research landscape. We're extremely delighted to have three extraordinary speakers to share with us their research career path. Upon completion of the three presentations, we'll have a Q&A session before and also a panel discussion before that. We welcome questions from the audience, and ample time will be also reserved for networking and direct communications. Today, we're honored to have as our guest of honor and the moderator for the session, Professor Rick Wong, Senior Advisor to the President and Vice-chancellor, Chair Professor in Chemistry at Hong Kong Baptist University. Now, please welcome Professor Rick Wong to provide us with an opening remarks.
Good morning, Professor Tong, distinguished guests, esteemed speaker, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor to welcome you to today's sessions of the Hong Kong Laureate Forum, a platform that celebrates excellence in scientific research and foster the next generation of innovators. Your presence today underscores the importance of collaboration and knowledge sharing in driving progress. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Hong Kong Laureate Forum for organizing this remarkable event. Your commitment to advancing scientific research and nurturing talents is truly commendable. This forum serves as a bridge between the groundbreaking research and real-world impact, and today's session on research career development is a testament to that mission. We are gathered here at a pivotal moment in history. Biotechnology is rapidly transforming the way we approach healthcare, sustainability, and innovation. This aligns seamlessly with China's National Technology Development Plan, which prioritizes biotech as a key driver of economic growth and societal well-being. Similarly, the Hong Kong SAR government has been actively supporting biotech development, positioning our city as a global hub for innovation and research. Today's session is particularly special because we are privileged to hear from some of the most accomplished biotech researchers and entrepreneurs in the field. Their insights will not only inspire us, but also provide practical guidance on navigating the challenges and opportunities of a research career. To our audience, postdocs and research students who are about to embark on their research careers, this session is designed with you in mind. The journey from academia to industry, or from early stage researcher to principal investigator, is filled with both excitement and challenges. Today, our speaker will share their personal experience and offer actionable advice to help you navigate this journey with confidence. Our first speaker, Professor Alice Wong, Associate VP Research and Chair Professor at Hong Kong University, will share her personal journey from postdoc to principal investigator. Her presentation title, From Postdoc to Principal Investigator, A Personal Journey of Lab Leaderships and Grant Strategies, will offer invaluable advice on leading research teams and securing funding, a critical skill for any aspiring researcher. Next, we're going to hear from Dr. Ricky Chiu, CEO, co-founder, and lead investigator of Face Diagnostics groundbreaking technology. Dr. Chiu's journey from researcher to entrepreneur is a shining example of how scientific innovations can be translated into real-world impact. His insight will inspire you to think beyond the lab and consider how your research can address pressing global challenges. Finally, Professor Anderson Shum, VP Research and Chair Professor at the City University of Hong Kong, will take us through his research career path. His presentation will cover essential topics such as building collaborations, securing fundings, and leading research teams, skills that are crucial for anyone pursuing a career in biotech. As we listen to this remarkable speaker, I encourage each of you to reflect on your own career aspiration, whether you envision yourself leading a research lab, commercializing your discovery, or collaborating across disciplines. Today's discussion will provide you with the tools and inspiration to succeed. Before we proceed, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Hong Kong Laureate Forum for bringing us together, as well as to our speakers for sharing their expertise. Your contributions are shaping the future of biotech and inspiring the next generation of scientists and entrepreneurs. In closing, let us remember that pursuit of knowledge is not just a personal endeavor. It is a collective effort that has the power to transform societies and improve lives. Together, we can advance biotech innovation in line with the national and regional goals and create a brighter future of all. Thank you, and I wish you all an engaging and productive session. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Wong. Please remain on stage for the following photo. And we'd like to now invite the following guests to join us on stage. May we first have the chairman of the HKLF, Professor Tong, to join Professor Wong here on stage. Please welcome. We'd also like to invite our speakers to join us at this moment. Professor Alice Wong, the University of Hong Kong and member of Research Grants Council. Please welcome. Next, we have Dr. Ricky Chiu, Face Scientific International Limited. Let's stand together for this photo. Our other speaker, Professor Anderson Shum, will be with us shortly. Let's stand closer together towards the center and we'll have a photo together. I'm sure we can't wait to learn from our speakers today. All right, thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you. Thank you again for your support to the HKLF and for being here with us today. At this juncture, our photographer is going to come up to the stage and take a photo for us, with all of us joining us this morning. Let's get ready to smile for the camera here at the front. All right, let's smile for the camera at the center. Cheers. Great. And we'll have also the video camera. So if you could just wave to the camera, that would be wonderful. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Yay. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Welcome again. Great. Well, today, our 3 esteemed speakers will delve into key topics that are essential in research career development. They'll discuss the transitions between career stages, how to set up a collaboration, and share tips to secure funding. And our first speaker, Professor Alice Wong, Associate Vice President of Research and Interim Director and Chair Professor, School of Biological Sciences, Faculty of Science at the University of Hong Kong. She's also a member of Research Grants Council. She's going to share with us on From PhD to Principal Investigator, a personal journey of lab leadership and grant strategies. Now please welcome Professor Wong.
Good morning, Chairman, Professor Tong, and also chairman of the session, Professor Wong, guests, Dr. Chiu, Professor Shum, students, I think also colleagues here, postdocs, and also the organizer. Thank you very much for inviting me. So actually, for me, this is a special session as well because I often only give scientific seminars or scientific talks talking about the data. Very rare, like this occasion, I'll share my personal experience. I changed the title a little bit because I note that like many of the audience here are actually students rather than postdocs, right? How many of you are students here? So that's good. So thank you, Mona, for giving me the information. So I revised it a little bit, and I'm sure there are also postdocs here, right, as well. So let's get started. So often when we start like a career, we ask what inspired you. But for me, and also I think for quite a number of you, is actually who inspired you. And I noticed that like at university submission, often we ask students, why do they choose that major? They often say it's their biology teacher. So it seems like who might be more important than what. So for myself, I got inspired and go into deeper in understanding molecular biology, or started when I was doing my undergraduate, being an undergraduate. That was the time when molecular cloning get started, and also Carrie Muller's, not sure some of you might know, Carrie Muller's got the Nobel Prize in get a PCR, in discovering PCR. So in those days, I actually heard a talk by Carrie Muller's when I started, at the end of my undergraduate, starting my PhD, no, it's actually my master's in Hong Kong at CUHK. He just used a laser pointer, a dot, and with a lecture theater larger than this, maybe double the size of this one, he said that in 2 to 3 hours, basically, is how the PCR reaction takes place, that the whole room will be filled up with these red dots, these laser dots. So I just find it amazing, something you can see, but it's being very important in life and also disease. So that got me started my master's degree at Hong Kong U with Professor Will Lee, who retired now. So he's a molecular endocrinologist. My project at that time is to clone a gene, which is essential for both physiology and could be disease as well. So in those days, if you clone a gene or you make an antibody, you can already graduate with a master's degree. But that also got me learn some of the essential skills in cloning and molecular biology. So after that, I decided to do a PhD in Canada. And this young man, his story has inspired me a lot. He's Terry Foss. Have anyone heard of Terry Foss? Okay. He's a young person in Canada, a Canadian, started his university, but very soon he was diagnosed with cancer, osteosarcoma, a bone type of cancer. So what he did is, because he likes sports very much, he tried to run across Canada to raise funds. And as you can see that in his later stage, one of his legs got amputated and replaced with an artificial leg, but he continued his run. So he couldn't finish, but his spirit, his wish to support cancer research is still ongoing nowadays. So in Canada, nowadays is a Terry Foss run every year. So people run to raise funds for cancer research. I got inspired is because actually my studentship in part is supported by the Terry Foss run. So I felt that with what I learned, I hope that I could give something back to the community. So as I've mentioned, who inspires me? My PhD mentor, Dr. Nellie Alsberg, inspires me a lot. So what I have learned from her, there are several things. First of all, is collaboration. So she widely collaborated with different people in the field, like, of course, scientists, different basic scientists, clinicians, because we are doing cancer research, and even entrepreneur at that time. So that wasn't very common at that time, but we started to know a little bit about like how through the industry or through a biotech company, you can reach out your research, like your findings can get to the community sooner. And her passion. So she actually retired already when I joined her, so she's an emeritus professor. Didn't get any pay, but still like wanted to do research as her first priority. So in North America, as long as you get funding, you can run a lab. So that's basically how I joined her lab. She said at that time I was her last PhD student, but turned out that she worked for another 10 years after I graduated, which is good. So she got more students being trained after myself. And she's very adventurous. She learned new things. I can give you one example. In Canada, so as nowadays, most people, they use Mac, like MacBook. At that time, they call it Apple, so they use an Apple computer. As I said, like I joined her when she retired, so she's already at the age of 70 at that time. She has always been using an Apple computer, but since she retired, she didn't get much pay, only support from the research grant money. She realized that if getting an IBM computer at that time, she could get 2 IBM computer for the same price as one Apple computer at that time. And then she felt that it would be good to get the students to have a computer. So she decided to learn how to use IBM computer at that time, just because she wants like students like myself can have a computer, and then she's starting doing it. So the other one is ingenuous, that is using very simple things to make significant discovery. So there are not much resources, like very simple resources in the lab. But I've learned from her how to pay attention to very meticulous details, and those are important, having good observation. So for example, I can give you one example, cell cultures. We do cell culture a lot these days. She would pay attention to, by having the plate tilted a little bit, then you have different gradients of heights of the medium, and that actually affects cell morphology. So all these very simple things that I learned from her that also form part of how I am now as a researcher. So after that, I decided to go to New York, Memorial Sloan Kettering, to have a postdoc with Dr. Barry Gambiner. So he is a developmental biologist. In fact, I wanted to learn development from him because cancer has a lot to do with development. A lot of the genes, they are there already. It's just happened in the wrong time and the wrong place. So I felt that if you have a better understanding of how development is, you could maybe able to also get some understanding on cancer. So he's a very smart person. So at Memorial Sloan Kettering, it's different. Like in terms of resources, they have phenomenal resources and also the facility. What I learned from Barry is, again, like collaboration, which I think Anderson would talk more. So you can see different postdocs, different experts in different areas, and also how to ask a good question. Could be, again, a very simple, basic question, but make a difference. And how are you going to address it? How different approaches are being used to address the questions. And in his lab, in fact, all the postdocs, he doesn't have to fund them. They all get fellowships to come over to work in the lab. So I guess that's all some of the good labs are. When you, after your PhD, you try to move on for a postdoc. So afterwards, I traveled back to Hong Kong, which I started the lab, and it has been more than 20 years at Hong Kong U. So as you can see that, like, we have a team, different members throughout time. Some of them, they are PIs already. Some of them, they work in different disciplines. We do collaboration. I collaborated with Anderson before, so we had a very fruitful kind of work together. And also, sometimes I explore different areas as well in terms of my research project. So progressing from assistant professor, associate, and professor. So for those you are doing your PhD, after your PhD, you look for a good postdoc. My advice is, for a postdoc, you got to go to a big lab. Like for PhD, it is okay. Like a new investigator, you learn the basic skills. In postdoc, you want to be productive. Afterwards, you move on to assistant professor. So in Hong Kong now, it's a 3+3. And then it goes to associate professor, which doesn't have a timeline for you to move to become a professor. So, but I suggest do not wait too long. Try to prove yourself that you are like someone who are ready and capable of going to the next level. And yeah, for a professor. So I put down some of the points which I think they are important. I did put a little bit like whether it's more important for assistant professor, associate, and then full professor. So for assistant professor, I would think the first one is to stay focused. Don't have too many interests. Like I know, like I got distracted and interest on all the new things, but because of your resource is a little bit more limited, your manpower is not, or your lab size is not big as a professor, I suggest to stay very focused on a particular topic. And only by doing that, people would know you. When they thought about that area, they would think about you. So staying focused is important. And nowadays, quality is more important than quantity. Of course, I often say if you get both quality and quantity, that's good. But if you have to select one, get the quality in terms of your research work. And when you move on, not saying like network collaborations are not important, but for associate professor, you will start applying for more collaborating grants. You are leading like bigger projects, so collaboration and networking comes more important. And continuous learning is also important. And because often you are holding like working on bigger projects, interdisciplinary projects, so you have to learn like some of the novel kind of knowledge. And for full professors, when you get to the full professors, time management is very important because you are getting administrative duties, teaching, and all the others. So how to manage your time would be important. And also maybe even balance between work and your family as well. So finally, perseverance, being persistent, keep on doing what you like and what you believe is good is important. So finally, the last part of it, just share with you a little bit about funding. Funding is important. It's not just research grants to support you, but sometimes your fellowship now, even for us, we have awards and fellowship as well. Those sometimes come with a part of the funding to support research. So it supports research. It will advance knowledge and innovation, because when I look back, a lot of the time, if my project is one that gets supported like with a grant funded, I get better outputs and more outputs from those, as the RGC chairman, Professor Tong, would know. So, and also it gets you, for some of the bigger size grant, mega grant, collaborative grant, it gets you the opportunity to get collaboration and network, because that's actually a requirement for those grants. Other than like, you know, the project needs one, but you have to put together like different expertise. Expansion of the scopes that you are working on. Of course, I mean, with all these, academic promotions and some of the others come along as well. So also, writing a good proposal is important, but again, you want to write a successful one. There is no sure win tips like how to get a successful grants, but you learn from experience. And I put forward two kind of ways like that can achieve that is not is I heard it from some other grant writing talks, and I find that useful. One of them is the Helmea Catechism. Not sure if some of you heard of it, or maybe yeah. So it's a set of 8 questions that researchers and engineers try to answer in order to fully understand the context, cost, and effort required to execute a given project. So often they would try to ask is, what are you trying to do? So that would be your objective. And how is it done today? Because you have to tell people what are the knowledge gap. So also in terms of if it is a business, is what is the pain point? That's what they usually say. And what are the limits of the current practices? So what's new in your approach? Why do you think like it will be successful? And who cares if it is successful? Does it make a difference? That's the impact like we are talking nowadays. And what are the risks and the payoffs? Often like reviewers would say that you haven't considered alternative plans. What if it doesn't work? Then have you taken into account like what you propose as alternative strategies? How much does it cost? How long does it take? And finally is, what are your milestones? What are your deliverables? What are you going to assess, like, you know, whether the project is completed well? The other one I want to share with you is about Aristotle's, his thoughts about the art of rhetoric. Aristotle, you know that he's a great philosopher, and often people also regarding him as the first scientist as well. He also defined the disciplines of science. So one way he talked about in the art of rhetoric is how do you persuade, how do you make a speech to get people to be convinced about things. So he has this triangle with the ethos, the logos, and the pathos. So the ethos is credibility, authority, and also reliable. I find that, like, you know, in grant writing, it works because it is your CV, like whether you are the one that the best person to do it, whether your team has all the expertise in doing it. Of course, other than that would be your prior work, that is your publications, and also your preliminary data to support that you are the one like the most suitable for the project. Then the second one will be the logos. The logos is the logic, the reason, and the rationality. That means what is your rationale of the project, whether you have made very clear and logical description in each part of it, so that you generate your hypothesis, and your hypothesis is a testable one. So these are important. And the final one is the pathos. Pathos, it says emotion, imagination, and sympathy. That's what usually people do in a speech. But I find that also is suitable in grant writing is whether you can bring excitement to the reviewers. Reviewers often read like 10 or more proposals. Whether, like I once heard, is whether it has a wow factor. So wow is an excellent proposal. So you want to bring them being excited about your project. Of course, finally, is the impact. That is how you can bring this to the community and got it work. So find these very helpful as well. So last but not least is never give up in terms of grant writing, in terms of your career. So this is not what I said. This is actually from Alibaba, Ma Yun, so Jack Ma, so which is true. Never give up. He said today is hard. I thought tomorrow would be easier, but he said tomorrow is worse. It's only the day after tomorrow we'll have the sunshine, but ultimately, sunshine will come, so it will work. Your effort will pay off. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Wong, for all the sharing. Thank you so much, and we look forward to learning more from you at the panel discussion later on. Next, we have Dr. Ricky Chiu, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer at Face Scientific International Limited, who shared with us his journey from scientist to entrepreneur. Please welcome Dr. Chiu.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So, well, I'll get started because time is limited. So I think, no, this is the PM one. There's a morning one. So what I want to share with you today is my career experience going from a scientist to an entrepreneur. But a disclaimer, right? I think the path of entrepreneur or any businessman, if you ask any successful businessman, they will tell you the whole story. You need to understand that the rules of success for a businessman or entrepreneur is there are no rules. Basically, the winner tells you why they win. But at the end of the day, take it with a grain of salt. Use that as a reference. I do think successful people, successful businesses, they are a couple of rule of thumb, which I will share at the very end. But take that as a story, simply sharing from one scientist to another scientist. So this is me back in 2005. So what happened to me is I did my secondary school in Hong Kong, and at Form 5, at year 2000, I decided that I want to pursue a scientific career, and simply staying in Hong Kong back at that time is not as friendly and favorable environment for me. And for that, my family saved up a lot of money and allowed me to go to the US. And after I graduate my bachelor degree at UC San Diego in bioengineering, I tried to do my first job in order to stay in the US, right? So I looked for jobs, and my major was bioengineering, so which is pretty tough because it's a very new major. Most people cannot distinguish between biochemistry and bioengineering, and also in the industry, no one can separate that. So ultimately, I settled for a job that normally would work for a chemist. But what I did is in a small company in Southern California, which is a small company that developed and manufactured RATs. So today, everyone knows what RATs are. But RAT itself is an off-patent technology. It's so old that even when I first started my first job 20 years ago, it's already off-patent. Okay, so the official name of RAT is called lateral flow immunoassay, right? Immuno means it's an antibody-antigen interaction. The key components of such assay use antibody reaction to get the specificity to detect the target in your samples, okay? But for the longest time, lateral flow immunoassay, or the RATs, there are only two applications in the commercial world. There are tons of paper talking about what it could do, but actually that works in the real world. There are only two applications. The one application is a pregnancy test. Okay, a lot of people have experience with that. The other application, which is what my very first job this company does, is to develop drug of abuse tests. Okay, so the marijuana, the cocaine, the opiates, whoever have a party, if they want to go to get a job interview in the US, the first thing they give you is a urine cup. You don't go to talk to the HR first, they give you a urine cup. Make sure you're clean. If you're clean, then you can go to the next stage. So for me, my very first job is in the R&D as a product manager. So what that means is I need to take care of everything, from the concept of what a new product should look like. I need to go into the R&D to do the research, and then when the research is successful, then I need to go to the production. I need to make sure the production cost is limited and is effective, and I need to go to the quality controls, and I need to think about going the regulatory hurdles, talk to the FDA, and ultimately, if you do get FDA approval, then how can you market back to your end customer? So this experience to me is extremely helpful because that completely shaped my view as a scientist, what the career path it could be. I think in this path, that gives me a strong sense that any research that we learn from school, that we conduct at school in order to help the mankind, right, or in order to help anyone, it has to be commercialized, it has to be productized in order for someone to benefit from it. And take this lateral flow immunoassay, for example. It's off patent, it's nothing sexy, it's nothing novel, it's nothing new. But with the effort of understanding the market, understanding the needs, by doing some very non-sciencey modification, I'm able to help my company to drive a very successful business. So what happened here is, how does a new product came from? Well, it came from our sales, right? As I mentioned, this company do this kind of urine cup that sells to a lot of places. They are the big companies, also the law enforcement. We also sell it to the self-defense army in Japan. But very often, the sales come back complaining about the product, right? What do they complain about? The number one thing they complain about is cheating, okay? Imagine the scenario where you go interview for jobs, right? They give you this urine cup and say, hey, go pee in the restroom next door. So if you did party the week before, you smoke some marijuana, you smoke some weed, what would you do? Okay, there are thousands of ways for you to cheat and to get false negative results, right, to move on to the next stage. So the number one thing that we always get the complaint from the sales, which is the customer feedback is, how can you prevent cheating? How can you stop cheating from happening? So with that goes back to the R&D mind. How can we prevent that? Okay, so we came up with something which lead to the world's first saliva-based test for drug abuse. So imagine instead of going to a bathroom, because in order to give up your sample, you need to be in a private setting. Well, except prison. Prison, they just watch you pee, right? But then in most cases, you kind of do that in private. And so many ways of cheating involve, doing in someone can see you. But if you do a saliva test, then it's just like a thermometer. You can do it right in front of, the police. You can do it right in front of your interviewers, and largely prevent cheating from happening. So, and all the science is essentially the same. I simply change the form factor from a urine cup, and I include a collection pad that can stimulate saliva flow and suck the saliva so that it can introduce the same test strips, okay, in order for this product to happen. But this product became the world's first saliva-based drug abuse test, and it's also the very first FDA-approved test for the next 13 years. And after I left that company, this also allowed this small company to be brought out by one of the major company globally in the in vitro diagnostic called Alere. And Alere, after a couple of years, also bought by another larger company that everyone knows, which is Abbott. But this tells you how the business world works. But this experience for me is so enriching that I have the privilege to go from R&D to the manufacturing, to the regulatory, and also to the market. So with this, then I asked myself, why does these very elegant tests in RATs, that is so simple, that is so cheap, anyone can do it anywhere they want, why is that only limited to 2 applications? Why is that only go for pregnancy tests? Why is that can only be used for drug abuse? Can it be doing something more clinically relevant, right? The answer is no, because it's a test strip. It takes a couple of cents to make, right? It's just a paper strips. In a lot of situations when we want to detect something that are clinically relevant, most of the issue is it's just not accurate enough. It's not sensitive enough, okay? And that's why I left my company and I went to pursue my PhD. I went to UCLA, also find a very good lab in bioengineering department, and trying to pursue my quest, which is, can I fix the only problem of such elegant diagnostic tests? If I can resolve this accuracy problem, then this could be very beneficial. It could help a lot of people. It could be a very successful business. And that's why I went to UCLA to pursue my PhD. Okay, so long story short, I was very lucky because throughout that 6 years I spent at UCLA, I came up with a method that can significantly improve the accuracy of diagnostic, right? And I'm not going to go into the science today, but essentially what happened is, I use this example a lot, right? Imagine you have this cup of water. You put 5 grains of salt in that cup of water, and I ask you to use your tongue to taste that water. Most people would say you don't feel any saltiness in that cup of water, right? The tongue represents the rapid diagnostic, right? So in that case, or in the industry, in academia, for the past 30 years, most people think about modifying the tongue, which is the diagnostic tools, okay? So if sticking in that water for 1 second is too short, they ask you to stick in that water for an hour. Then maybe you can detect the salt in that cup of water. Or they put some chip in there to increase the sensitivity of your tongue, right? Or maybe they now add some AI, add some programming, use the big data to see if you can detect this better. And in fact, they work, right? That's why we have lab assay. We have all the clinical laboratory with all these instruments that are expensive, that takes a long time. You also require, trained personnel to run them. And they work, and they become the gold standard. However, every single of these methods has sacrificed the inherent benefit of your tongue, which is so convenient, and you can detect something within seconds. So my technology that I invented was not about changing the diagnostic tools, but thinking about this cup of water situation. Another way for me to solve this problem is not to change the tongue, but to change that cup of water. Imagine there's a way for me to change that cup of water and concentrate that 5 grains of salt from 1 cup of water to 1 drop of water. Okay? If I use my tongue to taste that drop of water with still 5 grains of salt in there, I can certainly taste the saltiness without changing the tongue at all. So that is essentially my technology, which is what we call a sample preparation technology. I did not change the diagnostic tools. I simply manipulate the sample prior to the detection. And with that, that allows me to be a very good PhD student because I'm able to publish a lot of papers, okay? But at the same time, this is really stimulated the question for me at that point. I can stay as a professor and go on to the academia path and to keep researching and then keep filing patents, and hopefully someone and some company would take my research, license it out from the university, and do products and about that. Or the other path is I can try to do this on my own, okay? But there's no right or wrong answer, right? This is just me as myself. But I think one of the most important things for my journey for the PhD, and I'm sure a lot of PhD students here are doing, is not, well, for me, it's not trying to graduate, although that is very important. But I think the most important part is to understand yourself, understand who you really are, what are you made of. I look at my professor. He's a very smart guy. He's a very caring mentor. He works super hard. However, I see him how struggle he is trying to get grant money from the government and fighting within the department, and that seemingly to be a bad example for me to pursue the path of academia. Again, it's personal experience. Nothing wrong with pursuing an academia path, but at the same time, because of my first job experience, I understand how a company works, and I also have a first-hand experience to feel how I can impact the society by having a product that can be developed and get to the hand of users that they can actually use the technology that I developed. So that's why I decided that I want to go to form my own startup. I want to skip this because I'm running out of time. Okay, so then I did something very similar to what Alice was mentioning, that I tried to start my company, but for every startup company, what is the most important thing? You need money to start with, right? Yes, I cannot pay for myself. In fact, I didn't get any salary for 3 years, right? But I still need people to work with me. You can't have a one-man band in a company. No company can do that. So where does money comes from? Okay, the good thing is in the US, it is a very mature ecosystem for entrepreneurships, right? The government has a lot of funding, different channels of fundings. So what we did is we write grant proposals, right? And the first 7 times my grant proposal failed, okay? And only until the 8th times that I kind of learned the right way to do so. And I was proud to say that after that, every single time, my grant proposal was successful. And we were able to get different fundings from different departments from the US. I get it from the National Institute of Health, National Scientific Foundations. We also get funding from the Gates and Melinda Foundations on different applications of our core technologies applying to different world issues. But the key of success from there, I think there are the two parts of writing a successful commercial proposal. One is you must understand the problem. Right? A lot of us coming from the PhDs, we fall in love with our technology. We think our technology can do anything, can solve anything. But only until you really understand the market should you able to tell whether the technology that you have can actually solve the issues. Okay? But this is first layer. This is very first layer. Then you have the second layer, the third layer, which I may not have the chance to talk about. I can help you to tell you in Q&A. But you have the regulatory concern, you have the economic concern. Yeah, even though your technology can solve the issues, but people are not willing to pay for it, that business is still going to be failed, right? So there are a lot of layers of questions that you tend to go one by one. This is the very first aspect of it. The second aspect of it is the fact that you're able to be collaborative, right? Because you coming from inventor simply does not convey strongly to the reviewer that you would have take my grant money, you would have a successful business. You must have collaborated in different aspects of things. I remember my very first grant that I applied, which also failed, but I was able to get, it was a food safety application, right? Back in the day in 2012, remember triamine, 三聚氰胺, right? Which is a very, very prominent, food safety concern from China. The milk powder had this triamine chemical that can cause abnormality in the babies. So my idea is, can I have a rapid test that can detect, the milk powder very quickly and very simply, right? And I even got a recommendation letter from Tyson, which is the largest food safety in food production industry in the U.S. And even that is not enough, right? But the moment that I'm able to get, traction and get successful fund, it's the fact that I have multiple collaboration. I have different stakeholders, from research collaborator to clinical collaborator to regulatory collaborator to my end users, all telling my reviewer that this technology, Ricky's company, Ricky's technology is awesome, that I believe that it can lead to somewhere. And only then, it seems to get the wow factors for the reviewers. So with some money, that coming from the government, then we go embark with our entrepreneurial journey. So basically, the early founding teams were basically, my folks from the same lab at UCLA and some of my ex-coworkers during my first jobs. And very importantly, it comes upon meeting my very important mentor. So it's the tallest guy right there. So he is an awesome mentor. His name was Dan Marshak. He was hired by James Watson. He was in the Cold Spring Harbor, and he was also a professor at Johns Hopkins. But he spent his first half of his career in academia, but then he quit his university and to join startups. And then all his startups were very successful, and ultimately that led him to a very high position at PerkinElmer, which is the top 3 and top 5 global diagnostic company in the world. He was the chief technology officer of PerkinElmer, and he was also the president of PerkinElmer China. And with that, he gave me a lot of pointers, a lot of insights about what my technology can be doing, should be doing, what should I be focusing. So I think in most people will tell you, the entrepreneurship, again, there is no rules, but at the same time, you really want mentors. You really want someone that's able to tell you, that's able to coach you what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, and what is the general direction that you're thinking. At the very least, you want sounding board to your ideas and your thought, making sure you make the best possible educated move every single step of the way. So mentor is extremely important. But another thing that mentor can bring you is their network, okay? So one story to share, I would tell you more detail about that in my afternoon session because it's highly related to IP related. But there's this one trip. He brought me back to Shanghai, which is where his headquarters of PerkinElmer were. And then he basically took me to the room with all his executives in PerkinElmer in China and give me a time to explain my technology to the team, right? So I did what I just told you about my journey and the technology and all that. And then they all look at me, right? They say, hey, your technology sounds great. You can do that on the RATs, but can you work on molecular assays? And can you concentrate DNA? And then I give them a very stupid answer, like, why do you want to concentrate DNA? Because if everyone know how PCR work, you can amplify, to the power of 40s of your DNA, fragments. And so why do you need to concentrate, 10 to 100 times of your DNA, right? So they don't tell me any reason. They simply say, can you do it or not, right? Then I say, theoretically, yes, right? But that spiked me into thinking, is there more my technology can do, okay? My mentor, being a great mentor, he also doesn't give me a straight answer. But then on the second stop of this trip, we went to Hong Kong, and then my mentor said, there is this one professor that is very famous, very prominent in Hong Kong that you have to meet him. And that is Professor Dennis Low, right? So I have this chance to talk to Professor Dennis Low, and basically I tell the same thing, and then he asked me the same question. He said, can you concentrate DNA in the plasma sample? Okay, back then I didn't understand anything about liquid biopsy, understand anything about non-invasive prenatal testing. I simply tell him, yeah, I think I can do that. Then Dennis Lowe told me that if you can actually do that, what you are doing, you can be a billion-dollar business. Okay, so after that, then I do some research. I talk to my mentor. Then I understand that my technology, besides that, I can concentrate different kind of biomarker, particularly in proteins, which are for the applications for immunoassays. Actually, in the field of liquid biopsy, where if you want to detect a fetus condition at a very early stage, when you want to detect a tumor at a very early stage, the DNA evidence that shred off into your bloodstream, into your samples, are extremely small, the quantity extremely small, which is exactly the situation of 1 cup of water with 5 grains of salt, which is the limitation of a lot of diagnostic these days. So if I can solve this problem, it could be a huge implication. So with that, then I decided to set up a new team in Hong Kong because I think I have 2 applications back then. I have infectious disease, which is my overall general application for my RATs. And then also understanding in liquid biopsy, Professor Dennis Lowe, which is, really the fathers of developing liquid biopsy. I want to get very close to these researchers. So that's why I decided to set up a headquarters in Hong Kong and focus my research into applying our technology into the field of cancer screening, liquid biopsy, and whatnot. And in 2 years, we were able to demonstrate our technologies were better than the gold standard for the past 30 years. Yet at the world's largest oncology center at MD Anderson, we have able to demonstrate that our technology is 2 to 5 times better than the technologies that has been used for the past 30 years. And when we are trying to continue the commercialization path, then something very drastic happens, which is COVID, right? So I can go along for another hour on this, but time is short, so I'm gonna skip. So basically what happened is we pivot because we got a phone call from Beijing inviting us to develop something that can help improve the diagnostic for COVID. And then we accept the challenge. And that's why, within the first, 30, 60 days, we were invited into Wuhan, which is the ground zero for COVID in China. And we use our technology to compare the national gold standard. And we're able to demonstrate our technology can significantly improve the accuracy of PCR for COVID. And at the same time, later on into the summer, Hong Kong start thinking about, the mass general population testing. And then we further transform ourselves from a technology developers to assay developers, now to a contractor for the government to provide services to the government for the local needs, right? And at the same time, this is a very pivotal moment because it's the very first day of opening of our community testing center in Lai King. And when the chief executive came visit us, I have my most important pitch to her, which I pitched her the idea of RATs, because back then it's all about PCR. But as a strong believer in RATs, I do believe in the pandemic situation, everyone has to arm themselves to able to help themselves, rather than simply relying on the government, relying on the doctors. How can we help ourselves by first detect whether we are infected or not, then we can seek help, or we can do all this quarantine, do all different kind of efforts. So with this beginning, a very strong journey for us that by working with the Hong Kong government, by working with Hong Kong University, by working with the Hong Kong Sanatorium and Hospital, within 6 months, we have the world's largest clinical studies that is on COVID RAT compared with the PCR, the gold standard. And we are able to get 32,000 patient samples and demonstrating that our RAT's accuracy is good enough, right, as an alternative, especially in the public health, in the pandemic situation, to really help the world. Yes, and there are other applications, there are other operations that we do. We do a lot of the lockdown procedure. In fact, the more confined lockdown procedure protocol were written by me and my team because we do believe that we can limit the inconvenience to the resident to the lowest level. And at the same time, I also transform into more of an advocate to explain the government actions and policy to the general population, let them understand why we want to do certain things, why certain inconvenience is needed. But I think Our biggest pride during the pandemic was the development of these rapid tests on COVID, which is the fruition of the largest clinical study that we mentioned. We are the first FDA-approved assay from Greater China, and we were able to, after 3 years, we were able to manufacture close to 200 million of these tests, both from Hong Kong and China, and we sell it to over 30 countries. And until the fifth wave, and Hong Kong finally endorsed, the rapid test, and again, we are at the forefront in promoting RATs and suggesting policy and strategies of how we use RAT properly in the community. So, after the pandemic, we have yet to transform ourselves again, because the pandemic is a one-off thing, and we have to always to ask ourselves what happened after the pandemic. As a business, the number one thing is about sustainability, right? Because I can't guarantee where the money can come in. I can't keep asking government for money. We have to find ways to come up with something that people would keep giving us money in exchange of our product and service and our technology. And in that, we expand. We want to make sure that we are able to reach out to our customer sector that we like. That's why we set up clinical labs in both Hong Kong, China, and the US. We developed the world's first urine test for cancer diagnostic, and the very first step, the lowest hanging fruit, is in cervical cancer. Because for cervical cancer, we all know 95% of cervical cancer came from this HPV infection, which is really the combination of the two things that I'm really passionate about, which is infectious disease and cancer. And in the HPV situation, we kind of able to combine the both. And we are launching this in Hong Kong and in the US and in China. And at the same time, we are continuously pushing the envelope of regulation, the governments, the doctors, advocacy, and of course, the consumer understanding. But I think the entire journey that what we are doing here, it can be summarized in this. I think this is a very interesting slide I use all the time when I talk to students. They are completely different mindset when you are pursuing as a scientist or academia path versus into entrepreneur. And this is in no way trying to diminish the path of academia. This is a very reputable path, and this is a very important in the entire chain of scientific advancement. However, should you want to decide to be an entrepreneur, there are a lot of other factors that you have to consider. So when you think about performance, okay, I'm simply thinking about this, me as a PhD student. I'm not comparing myself as a professor because I was never a professor. But when I'm trying to get a publication now, what I want to do in terms of the performance is simply proof of concept. In a lot of cases, if your result is some kind of image, then n equals to 1 is all you need. Get your best image possible to publish, right? But when you think about a product, your performance better be clinical relevance. It has to be making sure that you not only n equals to 1, but n equals to 1 million, if not more, has to be working. Scientific understanding is very important as academia because you need to explain to the world how certain things work. That's why you write the publications. But honestly, in the business, that is not the highest priority. Okay, there are something that our scientific discovery that we have uncovered till today. We still don't know exactly how that works. But we can make money out of it, so we go for it, okay? Reproducibility, as I mentioned, is very important. And then the cost is most scientists that ignore. I'm continuously nagging my R&D team on a day-to-day business. Why are you using that reagent? Can you use something cheaper? Can you use another alternative, right? There are a lot of things about the cost because at the end, people use their hard-earned cash in exchange of your product and service. If you are technologist right here with the cost right here and what the consumer willing to pay, it would never work, right? It would never work. So I think there are a lot of other factors here I don't have time to go over, but there are a lot of, basically it's a completely different set of mindset you need to think when you go into commercialization, when you think about entrepreneurship. So I guess the question of how to become an entrepreneur, I think these are some of the key factors that I can relate to throughout my own career journey. So first, pay attention in class. I think it is important to learn as much as you can while you are in a perfect environment that you can just have knowledge that's kind of forced into you, right? So trying to absorb as much as you can. But in the business world, again, there's no rule. That's why it's very important to have mentors that are able to tell you, that are able to advise you from different angles that may not be all traditional wisdom. I think third is also very important in getting a job, because if you want to do a business yourself, you want to start a company yourself, you better understand how a company actually works, okay? I think a lot of my peers that, are basically students their entire life and they just jump right into starting a company, the chance of success are very low because you don't even understand the nature of the business. You don't even understand the nature of a company. And honestly, for myself, I suffer. I make so much wrong mistakes, wrong decision, because I'm still, at times, running my company like a research lab. I'm still running my company like as I'm a PhD student. But I could be so wrong, in making some of these calls. So actually getting a job, actually shadowing someone of how a company should be working, should be operating, understand that common sense is a very invaluable experience. And you're going to fail a lot in a startup because, again, no one has the perfect answer. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. So able to embrace failure, able to pick up yourself once when things doesn't happen, understand why you lose, why you fail is important, and take risk, because a business is always thinking about risk. It's kind of playing poker, right? Even though you got pocket ace, your chance of winning that hands is only 50%. So you can never know. You can never know that you will win for sure, and you cannot guarantee that. So you have to take risks. If you don't take risks, then as well you don't play this game. So lastly, recognizing the opportunity and do not let go. But I think this goes hand in hand with number 4, because if you fail enough, when an actual opportunity got into you, you will be so hungry that you will not let go. So I think I have failed so much prior to the pandemic happens. When the pandemic happened, I'm doing everything I can to make sure that I'm able to be successful and make sure that our company get to a stage that we can keep on going. So I think with that, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Chiu, for sharing your truly inspirational journey. Thank you. Next, we're going to welcome on stage our third speaker, Professor Anderson Shum, Vice President of Research, Chair Professor of Chemical and Biomedical Engineering at City University, who is going to share with us his personal experience and insights in research career. Let's welcome Professor Shum.
Thank you. Thanks again for the kind invitation. Very nice to be speaking in front of Professor Tong, Professor Wong, and following Alice and Ricky, who are not only my collaborators, friends, and also we have a lot in common. I think a lot of the technology that Alice talked about, we have been exploring different ways to collaborate. And actually, some of my research focus is actually very related to what Ricky talked about as the Facify. So I think I don't know how the organizers picked this combination, but we have a lot in common in different ways. So before I get started, I'd like to get to know my audience a little bit more. So how many of you are still pondering pursuing a PhD career? Is there anybody? So some of you are still considering whether you want to do a PhD. So what do you think it would be the biggest question you want to get answered before you, that will help you decide? Yes, maybe you. What is the biggest question that you want to get answered? What topic and what research area can you pursue? Okay. How many of you are doing your PhD right now? So we have some of you pursuing your PhD right now. What is your biggest question that you think about during your PhD? Yes? Yes? Publications.
Because I'm working in the civil and environmental engineering, but the most thing I'm concerned about is publication, because it takes me a lot of time to collect all the data and work on data analysis. But yeah,
Okay.
So I'm worried about that.
Very helpful. How many of you are postdocs right now? We have some postdocs. So your biggest question that you want to get answered by joining here?
Thank you. I think as a postdoc right now, because you've gone through the PhD journey, you know let's say in cancer biology where I am, you know what is up and down, then you need to then realize, okay, what is that something you would want to, focus on specifically?
Okay.
And not be very distracted with the different topics you're interested in.
I see.
Yes.
Okay. So like what Alice talked about, how to focus on the quality, not just the quantity, how to amplify. Okay, so these will be very helpful because I can talk a lot about different things, but getting to know you help me to decide what examples to use, etc. So let me start by sharing a little bit about myself. I was born and bred in Hong Kong. So I went through the local school education system until I was secondary 5, and then afterwards I went to an international school in Hong Kong called the Li Po Shun United World College, and then afterwards I went to Princeton to pursue a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, also with some diplomas in material science and also in engineering biology. And then afterwards, I went to Harvard and pursued my master's and PhD degree in applied physics. And since the end of 2010, I came back to Hong Kong to join the University of Hong Kong in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. And then since last October, I moved to the City University of Hong Kong. Now I'm in the Department of Biomedical Engineering and Department of Chemistry, also serving as the Vice President Research. So one of the most common questions that I got is, so what do you exactly do? Because you're laughing, so I guess you have the same question. Because my bachelor's degree was in chemical engineering, and then my master PhD is in applied physics. And when I first came back to Hong Kong, my home department was mechanical engineering. Now I'm in both biomedical engineering and chemistry. So, so I think that may also help to answer some of your questions. My answer to that is it doesn't matter. Because I think many of these disciplines that we were educated in or that were designed were from many, many, many years ago when knowledge was defined more in terms of the pedagogy rather than what problem you're trying to solve. In my view, when you pursue a PhD, postdoc, or have your own research team, you want to solve the biggest problem in the world and the most urgent problem in the world. For example, cancer is a big problem. A lot of us have family members, or a lot of us may have genetic composition that make us more susceptible to cancer. So you want to solve big problems like that to help improve humanity, or you want to solve urgent problem, like what Ricky talked about when COVID came. He came to the rescue using his technology. And big problems, important problems, urgent problems, they don't come choosing which disciplines they are from. They're just problems. And the most creative people, so for example, using Ricky as an example, if you just focus on development of drugs, development of the biochemistry of the detection, then he may not be thinking about how to do sample processing. That a lot of people, I think when I was doing a PhD, because I was working on microfluidics, it's essentially a very complicated piping system. The most useful part of it is also for sample preparation. So I understood how people typically look down on sample preparation, because if you're a doctor, you may be wanting to develop new drugs. If you're a fundamental biologist, you want to find out more about the mechanisms. But why sample preparation? Sample preparation turns out to be a different way to address the problem. And so if you just look at the disciplines, then you may not be selecting the best possible approach. So therefore, because I work on microfluidics, how to direct fluid to go through tiny channels and get them to form different droplets, to get them to encapsulate different materials, or use each of the droplets as a reactor, as a test tube for compartmentalizing different molecules. So there's no well-defined disciplines. Mechanical engineering, I can use it for making the device. I can use it to understand the fluid dynamics that's related to microfluidics. Biomedical engineering, focusing more on the applications. So when you are trying to pick the topic, pick some big problem that you think will impact the world, and at the same time, you are personally passionate about. Because one of the advice that I always give my students is that when you're trying to decide what you want to pursue, very often you think of the bright side. You look at Alice, so successful, such a role model for female scientists. You look at Ricky, such a fantastic entrepreneurs that can combine technologies to solve the city and even the world's biggest problem. You look at all the bright sides, but you don't know the hard works, the failures that they've gone through. If you look at the professors, if you look at your previous colleagues in your lab, they publish Science, Nature, of course you love it if you can do it. It's no-brainer. It's very easy to like it when it's successful. But the more difficult part is learn about what challenges they have gone through. If it's going to be that challenging, are you still in it or not? So my first research career in my first, when I was an undergraduate student pursuing my research project, I was trying to image some surfactants like detergents on metallic surfaces using AFM. So you can see that using AFM, you have a little tip trying to image on metal surface. You will disrupt the surfactants molecules, the soap molecules. Nobody has seen that before. It's very hard. I basically worked really hard for 9 months with 0 results. I didn't know what I was doing. The time I thought I see something turns out to be artifact. I showed to my postdocs, showed to my professors, and then what about if you shout in the room, do you see the pattern change? Yes. Oh, then it's probably artifact. If you get electrical noise in the room, do you see changes in the signals? Yes. So that probably is not real. So that's the process. But if you keep encountering these failures, each time you learn something and you enjoy the process of learning, then research may be good for you. And if this is a topic that you don't mind going through lots of failure, and each time learning something and you still enjoy doing it, then this may be a topic that you're going to make a big discovery in future. But if you like it because you're going to get a science paper, nature paper, you may get it, but you may not be as passionate as you think you are in it, and that's when you have to be careful. Another thing that I learned about the cross-disciplinary nature of big problem is when I graduated from university, I still remember in the commencement speech by the president of the university, Shirley Tilghman at the time at Princeton, the things that she taught us was you came to Princeton not to learn, but to learn how to learn, because the world is going to change very rapidly. So when you're thinking about a topic, this topic very often is just a platform for you to learn how to learn about yourself, because I always tell my students, if what you're doing now is what I did best, then probably you're working on a very outdated topic, because science, technology moves very fast. The problem, the tools, the needs, the demands from the society all evolves very quickly. In the past, if you are coming up with new techniques like certain microscopy, you can be working on it for a really long time. But now, when you have certain new technologies, the cycles go so quickly that if you do not know how to learn quickly and become an expert in a new area, it's very easy to be left behind. And different people have different approaches from learning. Some may get inspired by reading literature. Some may require using their hands. Some may be using simulations. Some may be thinking about the theories. So get to know yourself, how you learn best. That, I think, is a very important skill. And then as you start pursuing a project or start going getting to a research, you need to ask yourself why. I still remember when I first joined my PhD group, it's very interesting. My PhD supervisors always suggested that, well, please think about whether you really want to do this. If you want to do science to get rich, there are much easier and better path to get rich than doing science. If you want to do science to get famous, there are also many different ways to get very famous. So the only reason that is valid, I realized, was if you just enjoy the process, if you just enjoy science, you just enjoy the discoveries of new knowledge. Because one of the major differences between a university and a secondary school or primary school is you don't go there just to learn, but you also go there to witness, to see firsthand how knowledge is discovered and generated. And that comes with an excitement because you should be doing something that nobody else in a history in the world has done. And so that, if that is something exciting to you, then you have no option because many other disciplines do not allow you to do something like that. So you need to think about why. And I was also asked to talk a bit about collaborations. Collaborations is extremely important because, like I said, you don't get to choose the problem. The problem presents themselves to you and you try to be creative in solving them. And you cannot be great in everything, in all disciplines that are needed in order for you to solve that problem. So that means you need to find collaborators. Collaborators are people that do not have overlapping interest or do not have overlapping expertise with you. They can have overlapping interests, but make sure that they don't have overlapping expertise because maybe in that case you will only be duplicating the effort and not really getting covered in areas where you are weakest. But if you can find people with common interests but coming from a different expertise, then it's more fun and you get to have someone covering you in areas that you are not so good at. And I think that's why, for example, Alice is very good with cancer biology. I can do some microfluidics, droplets, etc. So when we work together, we can explore the same problem in different manner, and I learned a lot from working with Alice, for example, and that's, I think, one of the main points I want to talk about in when it comes to collaboration, and when it comes to publications or coming to funds. I think fundings and grants are very necessary. We consider those as inputs. Inputs needed in order for us to generate outputs, which can be publications, research impact, new companies, new technologies, etc. But I think when we have the inputs, it is our responsibility to think about how we can efficiently transfer the inputs into outputs. So I think Ricky talked about the comparison of students or academia with entrepreneurs. I think academics, in my view, the research community is also changing very rapidly. For a very long period of time, we have some proof of concept results. And then the greatest things for us is we publish some nice papers. And after publishing some nice papers, we go and talk to people like Ricky or investors to find ways where we may be able to translate or commercialize the technologies. That has been a pathway that a lot of us have been pursuing. Now I'm seeing in the research community, particularly some areas, some research field, and also some areas in the world. After getting your proof of concept, the first thing to do is not to publish. The first thing to do is to go and talk to industries, goes to talk to users, go to talk to investors, to see whether the proof of concept have potential to scale up, to be amplified, so that if you get more money, not just from Research Ground Council or not just from funding agency, but actually from investors, with the bigger money, then with the proof of concept, you can actually try your technologies, put them on trials in a bigger scale. And after a bigger scale proof. So I think Ricky talked about the number of sample size is about 10. That has been the way. But if you don't publish yet, but have your proof of concept, get your funding needed from investors, from industry, and actually increase the sample size to 10,000 or 100,000, then you can have a company, and then afterwards, you can actually publish with a larger sample size, and your publications can actually be better. So I'm seeing that to be a more an evolving way of getting funding. So not just from government grants, but also from investors, and then using that to scale up your research, to build a prototype, to distribute to a wider audience and increase the sample size. And then in terms of building and leading a research team is very important, because it's not, you cannot do research alone. If you do alone, it's not fun. And also, I think as many of our sharing from Alice and Ricky mentioned, professors have a lot of duties, teaching, admin, and other things. And so we need to have a team. And in the team, for my own research group, typically I have a lot of students from different areas, from different fields. We need people who know a little bit about chemistry, a little bit about fluid dynamics, a little bit about biology, a little bit about, nowadays, computer science, programming, AI, etc. So when you try to develop yourself, you need to be very good, have your own expertise in one area, but you also need to learn how to talk to people coming from different expertise, because these are people that you need to work together as a team to deliver in future. So this is another area that is very important. And I think I don't want to take away more of your time from the panel discussions, but these are some of the points that I like to share with you. And I hope all of you can find areas that you're passionate about, areas that you would spend 10% or even 1% more time on than your peers. And if you continue to spend more time on something than your peers, then over time, just like compound interest, you will become a lot better and better and better than others. And you can only do that if you are passionate about that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Shum, for your sharing, and we'll welcome you back to the stage again when the stage is ready for the panel discussion session. Well, I believe we all learned from our speakers just now, and they have provided us with a solid foundation as we navigate the complexities of research career development. Well, as we're preparing the stage, just a reminder again, the second Hong Kong Laureate Forum will take place from the 5th to the 8th of November this year. Around 10 Shaw laureates and distinguished scientists will spend 4 days in Hong Kong interacting with 200 young scientists. And we're now open for application until the end of March. If you haven't done so yet, please do so as soon as possible. For more details, visit our website or scan the QR code available at the venue. Now to host this panel discussion, please join me to welcome our session chair, Professor Rick Wong. And he'll be just with us in just a moment. And at the same time, I'll be inviting our other panelists to the stage first, and they are Dr. Chiu, Professor Wong, and Professor Shum. And of course, Professor Rick Wong as our moderator. Please take your seats. Thank you for being here with us. And Professor Wong, over to you.
Thank you, Alice, Ricky, and Anderson. It was a very enlightening talks. Okay, now as a moderator, I'm going to address some questions to you. Okay, first I would like to ask Alice, okay. You share your journey from postdoc to, or from a PhD to a principal investigator. What was the most challenging aspects of transitions from a PhD student to become a principal investigator? And how did you overcome it?
Thank you. So for me, the biggest challenges, I think from PhD, finding a postdoc is not difficult. So it's more to find a good lab A good lab, to me, is not just, as I said, some of the more established PI, but I try to look into one that the PI is going to be fair. So how would you know, like, the PI is fair for the first time? So I basically, it's one way is you visit the lab, you talk to different people. The other thing is I went through their publications at that time. So often, each of the member, they would be able to lead a publication. So, and also I talked to them, like each of the member, they have their own projects. So you might have heard, like some labs are more competitive. They will put several members on a single project, and who excels, who will get the publication. So as still a trainee, I would try to balance that a little bit, like, you know, to find a good one. So from postdoc to being find a faculty position, that's difficult. But as I often told my members that I cannot guarantee them with a job, but I would try to prepare them with a good CV or good portfolio so they would get a chance to find a good position. But often, as I said, at job interviews, you are not the only one being interviewed. You are also trying to see if the other side is good for you as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Now, the next question I would like to ask is Ricky. Now, you start from academia research, and then you go to industry. So what inspired you to transition from research to entrepreneurships? And where were the key steps in finding face diagnostics?
Right. I think my very first job, as I just talked about, is life-changing for me. The fact that exposure to the industry allowed me to really, you know, go outside of the school and so-called see the real world, right? Because the fact that, you know, I can see that the company is more than an R&D department. It's more than just research, right? There are different gears in the machines in order for it to be working. And more importantly, that I was having the chance to talk to the sales would have the chance to talk to the real customers, and the feedback, the appreciation, the complaints, all that become very real to me, right? And the fact that we, the sense of they actually impacting the lives, you know, of the customers is very life-changing. I think this one example that I have is this one time while I was working on this project, a sales came back from the sales trip, and he said, "Ricky, you have blood in your hand." I was like, what do you mean? So apparently one of our customers was the prison in Saudi Arabia, okay? And the sales basically gave my prototype to some of the prisoner to test, right? And it turns out that some of the prisoner actually show positive for some of the drugs of the prototype that I gave them. And later on, they told me the prisoner got executed, right? So this is such a vivid, you know, experience for me that whatever I do actually have actual implication in the real world is life and death, right? And with that gives me the excitement, the fact that I wouldn't like to stay simply so remote from the impact. But again, I think this is a very personal, you know, choice, and kind of encouraged me to try to go to pursue the entrepreneur path.
Okay. Well, I mean, when you complete your PhD, you know, and you have a choice, you know, go to academia or industry. What really makes you decided to go to industry? Is it because of your industrial experience before, or
Yeah, I think so. I think it is really the exposure in the industry get me a sense of how a company works, at least my very preliminary, immature sense of how that works when I first start my company. As I mentioned, like this year is the 10 years of my so-called startup, and I'm still learning every day how a more mature company should be operate. But I think the initial thought of pursuing or going into the industry really stemmed from the chance, the privilege that I was having this couple years of experience in a position that allowed me to kind of expose more than just an R&D department of a company, which is mostly related to what scientists would go for when they go into the industry, but also, go into the production department, go into the quality department, go into the regulatory department, go into the marketing department, really understand as much as possible how a successful company needs to operate. And that experience to me is so invaluable.
Thank you, Ricky. Anderson, you have emphasized the importance of collaboration in your career. How do you identify and build successful collaboration, especially in interdisciplinary field? How do you choose your partners, and so on and so forth?
Thanks for the questions. So now when I talk to my students, when I look at a project, because most of the projects that we work on are multidisciplinary by nature. So I think the first thing that I always ask them two questions. When they come and present a project to me and I don't see answers to these two questions, I'll ask them to go back and prepare and come back. One is where our expertise lies and what are the missing expertises that missing areas of expertise for this particular project. And when there are certain areas of expertise that we don't have, who do we collaborate with, or do we know who we want to approach? So I basically tell them that just find me the best people in the world in these areas where we have the missing expertise. It is my job and try and attract them and to engage them to work with us. But if we don't know who they are, we don't know what areas of expertise we are missing, then we don't have a good foundation for the project. So that's the first question. Second question is who will be the users when we finish the project? So for example, I think we have some projects where we're working on some nanomotors or things like that, and they say, okay, we're going to apply this to address problems in colon cancer. Then I ask them, so who are going to be the users of these that is knowledgeable about colon cancer? I'm very blunt. I basically say that I don't know colon cancer. I don't think you know either. And two people trying to develop something for colon cancer with no frontline experience or understanding of colon cancer, it's not going to work. So, for example, when you are trying to test with certain assays or things like that, maybe the components we use will be in conflict with some of these other components in the existing assays for colon cancer. And if we don't have an expert, then how do we know that we are doing the right thing? If we want to wait until we finish the project and approach colon cancer, then maybe we are going around in circles unnecessarily. So that's users. So two things are, find me the collaborators in areas we have missing expertise, find me the users, and we bring everybody together before we start a project. And if we all like and see what we are doing, then I'm more confident that it will be a good project.
Okay, thank you, Anderson. And now I'll come back to Alice. Well, in today's research, getting a research grant is very important. What strategy do you recommend for early career researcher in order to secure research grant in such a competitive environment?
That's a good question. I'm asking myself often as well. Well, I don't get, to be honest, I won't be getting every successful in every single application. So keep trying is one. The other thing is, not sure if you would believe, the two kind of tips I share with you from some of the recent grant writing talks I went to. I still go to almost everyone. I can try to go, to learn about the grant writing tips. And you will, every time, I find myself learning something new. So I'm sure you will also have that experience. So it's worth going into it. The other thing is, I would think often is if you do something new, using some newer technology, as Anderson said, like things change so rapidly now. If you are just doing what you are, like being good at, it's no longer like working anymore. So try to learn something new, try to collaborate, ask the question and find the right person to collaborate. And I think these would get you more well prepared for the grant. One thing is I find that like nowadays with the Gen AI editing, like the English writing may be less of a problem. And often with a good proposal, sometimes we read like the application, it's not careless mistake, but their English writing is not perfect, but you can feel from the PI, like as a reviewer, like, you know, you feel from like the passion and also the good science being there. So ultimately, I think for any grant writing, the good science is most important. Yeah.
Thank you, Alice. Ricky, what advice will you give to postdocs and researcher students who are considering transitioning from academia to entrepreneur?
I think you really need to ask yourself about learning yourself. I think, as I share with my own experience, my PhD journey is really to search your soul, to really understand what you're made of, what are you good at, what are you bad at, and find a place where not only you are passionate about, but you also think you are good at, and then trying to pursue that. I think that is very important things. So now commercial is quite different than academia, although you know a lot of things are collaborating, emerging these days, right? But if there one thing that I would give advice or highly recommend for us to consider, you know, going into commercial from the background, from the audience here, is really echo what Anderson said, is to improve your ability to learn, right? Because when you go into the commercially, unless your entire family has been doing business for generations, and of course those guys naturally understand how can do a very good business, or understand how you can, you know, transform your technology into business. But most of us are, you know, not like that, right? We are a scientist, we go from school, we got a PhD, and now, oh, seemingly my technology or someone's technology interesting, I want to pursue, you know, commercial world. There are so much unknown out there, right? So the ability to learn and learn quick, and also to keep that open mind, to learn something that is not all technologically related. We're very much, us as a researcher, we like to keep asking technical questions. Right? I mean, one thing to learn is about asking the right question. But I think a lot of the questions that we ask are technical questions because we are trained to do that, right? In order to get our PhD, we need to ask the right technical question. But in the business world, you need to ask the right commercial question. Why does this company should exist? Maybe it should not exist. Maybe this product shouldn't exist, right? And if you think about, say, Elon Musk, right, on SpaceX, he simply asked one very simple question that's changed the entire landscape of space flight, right? He asked why each, you know, rocket takes, you know, hundreds, if not tens of billions of dollars to develop, right? It's a very simple question, but then he has this one important question, he finds a solution, he get the answer, and he able to build a very successful company. And I think especially these days, you know, when AI is here, you know, asking question, you can guarantee you can get some answer. You know, getting answer is never the hard part, is asking the right question. And I think asking the right question is really, you know, challenging you the ability of learning and self-learning, and often setting the right agenda to ask the right kind of questions.
Thank you, Ricky. Anderson, I'm sure you read a lot of research proposals, right? So what are the most common mistakes earlier career researchers made when applying for grants, and how can they improve their successful rate?
I think When you talk about proposals, there are different proposals. Some are individual grant proposal. Some are maybe bigger proposals that may take stages. Maybe you submit a preliminary proposal, and if it gets shortlisted, and then you may have to go an interview before you get it. So there are different kinds of proposal. I think the most common issue, I wouldn't say mistake, but maybe most common tendency is that could be improved is not to know your audience. I think very often we are writing from the perspective of the writer rather than the reviewers. When we write our proposal, we choose what to include and what not to include based on our own perspective. But then some of the things that we consider to be very important, because when I work with students, you notice when they write papers, there are certain things that they spend a lot of time, spend many words writing about. Probably those are steps or things that they spend a lot of time working on and then finally solved. Maybe in a chronological way, and also in a way that is proportionate to the amount of time and effort and sweat and sleepless night that they put in, and rightfully so. So they have a lot of experience and feelings about those parts, and they like to spend a lot of effort writing about those. But from the reader's perspective, sometimes you wonder, well, this is just one of the many steps, may not even be the most important step from the perspective of the project, but it seems to be very distracting. This is just one example. So my suggestion is to put yourself in the shoes of the reviewers. So you need to know the reviewers, are they coming from the narrow fields, the narrow research fields to yours, or from a broad field, or it may even include people that are not familiar with your discipline. Then you need to select the level of details and what details to include, because ultimately proposal is a way to communicate. You want to be an effective communicator. In order to do that, you need to know your audience, you need to know yourself, you need to know what are the important things that you want to emphasize more and what you want to de-emphasize. Because the more you say, the more you say, actually, very often, the less the readers will get, because you are talking sometimes about too many things, but not having a focus on the most important part that the readers may be curious about.
Thank you, Anderson. I quite agree with Anderson. A lot of this proposal, there's no problem with the technical and the scientific issues. Most of the problem is they don't know how to convey what kind of things they want to do, and the audience, a lot of them are not probably not the expert in that area, and they get lost, and they don't know what you're trying to do. So my advice when colleagues ask me, I would say when you complete a proposal, first, of course, you need an expert in the area to read it. Second, you need a layman to read it, knows. If they knows what you want to say, then your proposal should pass the first step. So I quite agree with Anderson. You have to know your audience, and sometimes you have to present it in such an easy way that a layman can understand it. Okay, thank you for the free speaker. In view of the time, I'll stop here and then open the floor for Q&A. Any questions from the audience? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Please, I would like to know how you manage rejection from your collaborators. Like when you collaborate with other people, you identify your collaborators. How are you able to manage the rejection from them when they do not want to engage with you?
Rejection, you mean if they refuse to work with
Collaborate.
you? Yeah. It's okay, there are many people. So I think, I think sometimes people will reject you because they are busy or there are many different reasons. So my first response is don't get discouraged. Sometimes it's not about you. And then I think when you try to reach out, if they reject, then maybe you can follow up and say, okay, would there be somebody else that you think I can approach that would be suitable as well? Or maybe in future, even though, I mean, we cannot work on this together in future, maybe when we meet in conferences, we can talk, or when you have time, please come visit us in Hong Kong. It's about building a relationship. And I think don't take a rejection as a rejection to everything, but it may be an opportunity to a future fruitful relationship.
Maybe
Yes, Alice?
I want to add on, rather than they reject, is how do you maximize the chance that they would say yes? So one thing is you have to read, about them, and also to impress them with the project that you are working on. So of course, I mean, there are other possibly, because of time commitment and the others, as Anderson said, it's okay, it's fine, they turn it down. But at least, I mean, you have to let them know and also get them excited about your work. That also helps. If they turn you down, they might be able to recommend a more suitable person.
Can I add something to that?
Yes,
Right.
Ricky.
So I just went from Portugal. I went to a conference for HPV. It's called Eurogene, which is the largest HPV conference they have every year. And basically, I went there. I want to look for collaborators. Right? I want to look for professors in Europe, the biggest professors that in my area that I want to work with them. And basically, me and my team has prepped this for months prior to this Portugal trip. We cold call, we send emails, we kind of harass them, we send them. And not only the professor, they are the big company like the Roche, the Abbott, the BD, those companies that we want to work with, right? So I think learning from my best sales and my best business development, folks, is you just need to be tenacious, right? You just need to be shameless. You can your skin has to be thick. You can't worry about rejection. Like you just keep sending emails, you harass them. To the level when we ambush them after their talk, when I tell them my name, he look at me say, "Oh, you," because they already recognize my emails, my tens of emails, right? But that at least give me an audience, for me a chance to have 1 minute to give me the reason why they should listen to me more. Right? I think that's why the first step, you need to have thick skin. You need to be, you need to show passion. You need to be very positive about you're willing to work with them. But I think the second part is what Alice mentioned. You need to improve yourself. I have so much data. I understand where they comes from. I understand from the professor, they want to publish more. They want to help their patient. I'm able to provide that to them so that in my 1 minute talk to them, I give them what they are looking for. And then now I can guarantee you after I leave Portugal, whenever I send them an email, they will respond to me within 24 hours. But because I think I have thick skin, and then I understand what is the thing that they need the most, and I'm able to provide that, or at least let them think that I am able to provide that to them. So.
Yes, I think keep trying is very important. As an old Chinese proverb, failure is the mother of success. So keep trying. Okay, yes.
Hello, thank you for all your answers and shares. And following up questions for the previous questions, when is the best time we reach out to collaborator? So that how much we need to equip ourselves before we approach others? Because you're saying that before we start the project, two main questions. The one is the user, and then the expertise we need to have. So we don't even start the project. So how can we impress the collaborator?
So maybe I'll answer that first. I think when you're about to start a project, usually you already know a competitive advantage from your own group, maybe based on your group's previous works or based on a new idea that you're confident that you can develop from your own area of expertise. And then I think with that clearly in mind, you need to do some research about how to apply that or how that can facilitate you solving a bigger problem where you may have some missing areas of expertise. And then you get to know, you have to do a little bit of research about what these other areas of expertise that you don't have and how you may be able to benefit benefit your potential collaborators. So you need to come up with hypotheses of how your area of expertise may benefit your future collaborators. And then you go and talk to them and see whether your hypothesis may be correct. Maybe they will get back to you and say, actually, we don't have this problem. This is solved. Then maybe you just move on to another area or to another application. Or maybe say, oh, this is not how we do it. You may want to think about this before coming back to us. Because I think it's part of being humble, knowing that even though you are the world's best in something, but you're not the world's best in everything. So how you can harness what you're really good at to work with others, to benefit others, and they may not find it beneficial, they may not find it an advantage. So you just want to reach out to them, test whether this is something that will benefit them, and if it's mutually beneficial, then you have the basis to collaborate afterwards.
Alice, you want to add anything onto it?
It's very well said. I see collaboration come in two ways. One is like Anderson said, like you ask, like if or you realize there is certain kind of expertise missing, then you need a collaborator in that particular area. The other is like what Ricky earlier presented, I think through the mentor, like through the networking, through there, you also may not be something you've thought of, but it comes to like, you know, a collaboration chance or need that you see.
Yes, please.
Hi, thank you for the wonderful session. My question is for early career researchers who probably do not have much domain knowledge, but probably have some sort of idea or a passion in some field, right? Probably has some interesting question, but doesn't know how to answer that. For those people, what will be your tips to find the correct mentor who can guide them to answer that question?
Alice,
Thank you.
You want to answer this first?
So like, as you mean, for example, the mentor is when you try to, like before you as a PI, right? Okay, before you as a PI, like for example, for myself, like I, from a PhD to a postdoc, I actually wrote 5 letters because I met another senior postdoc who told me that he wrote 10, and at the end you can only take 1 position, so you have to turn down the other 9 who say yes. So that's why I decided to cut it down to 5, so I only turned down the other 4. But at the end you just have 1. So how did I find the 5 letters I wrote, want to, like the labs I want to go, including Barry, is in your like as you said, there are some questions you want to ask, and or some topics you are interested. You probably know who are the experts or the giants in those fields. So you can write to them and then propose your project. There are also other chances that is I actually have met them at conferences. So I'm inspired by the work that they presented, and I want to go there and then learn more. So that's how I did it, yeah.
I'd like to add that going to conferences talking to people. I think nowadays Hong Kong is in a much better position because we have a lot of academic visitors coming all the time. So even if you want to talk to the world's experts in a lot of different fields, you may not need to fly all the way. You may get to go to their lectures here, and afterwards maybe be prepared, have an elevator pitch of 1 minute or so, see if you can talk to them and see if he or she may remember you. Of course, I think when you are in Hong Kong, you probably have your own academic supervisors in Hong Kong, and they may know a lot of people, so they may also help to introduce.
Okay. Ricky?
Yeah, I think my answer to this and the former question is quite similar, because I think something that I discover is very often time you don't know what you don't know. So if you already have a question and then you go find the solution, is easy, honestly. Most of the time you don't even know what you don't know. So that's why I would echo what Anderson said is, it's really about build your network. Sometimes you can't be so direction or so clear that you simply want to find a mentor, right? You kind of be a little bit more general out there, not about when to find a mentor, when to find collaboration. You just need to expand your network, have a reservoir of people that you understand, your surroundings, right? There are certain directions that you have to spend your limited time on, right? But at the same time, you don't want to be too narrow and too focused so that you only go talk to one guy when you think that guy is the one. Maybe that guy is not the one that you like, right? And a lot of times, you don't know what you don't know. So able to talk to more people, have thicker skin, allow you to collect more data and able to make the better decision and find the better mentors. Or sometimes the guy may not be a mentor. I think mentor to me is very personal, right? You have to think about someone that willing to also spend their precious time and focusing on you. Why would they do that? So I think there are different levels of advisors. You have mentors, and then you have some advisors, you have some, consultants. Like, it's kind of like a pyramid. So you can't simply just aim for a mentor. Kind of need to have a network of folks around you.
Thank you. Yes, the one in the front.
Thank you for your sharing. And Professor Shum, the speech inspired me that all of the sex seem similar, but when a person could be said to be a successful person because he went through all the failures before the success. And I want to ask you that could you share some specified story or one event, and could you share with us that what do you think, and what do you and what stands you for when you facing the challenges or the failures? Yes.
Maybe I'll start first. I wouldn't frame those as failure. I think it's just as Alice shared in one of the quote, it's just not yet successful. I think as scientists, if we think and put our experiments or put our scientific process in perspective, we always learn something, even though the results may not be as we expected. So I wouldn't call that a failure. I would just call that a lesson. I think the scientific part is the easy part. The more difficult part is maybe in future when you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to work with people. You have to. I think people are always more difficult, but the scientific part is always comparatively easier because you can always learn something.
This is also what I felt like. So when you ask the question, I try to think like, any particular example I have. I don't, like Anderson, like I don't see those as major failures. So I don't have an example. And by the way, it happened every day, like the experiments, like with hiccups and students and all those. And it's just a chance of learning, or maybe another step towards like that it will work. But one thing I wanted to share, like in the presentation, which I forgot is throughout the assistant professor, associate, and then the professor, the different stages, I think for myself, I don't know the others, but I think the associate professor is the most challenging time. Because with the assistant professor, nowadays they have a lot of packages for your to help you, and also with the funding to help you, and everyone try to help you to build your career. And you also get just freshly trained from the techniques, like the most updated techniques or platform that you have, so you can use it to address the question. From the when you go to associate professor, with the department or the faculty would give you more admin role, more teaching, more roles. So in terms of the workload, you have more. In terms of your team, they expect you to be an established PI, but you don't have a team as big as a professor. And it's a chance that you have to learn new things, to build your collaboration, to also develop something more unique of yourself, so that when you try to move on, they will consider you being a leader in the field. Yeah.
Thank you all. In view of the time, time's up. Okay, I have to call the session end. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you once again to this panel. May I invite all of you together at the front of the stage for a photo. At the same time, I would like to invite Professor Tong to join our speakers here for a photo. Let's give a big round of applause to our panel members again. Thank you. And thank you, Professor Wong, for moderating the session for us. They shared the valuable perspectives and experience in their research career development. And we hope that they have inspired you. I'm sure they have, really. Thank you once again very much. Thank you. Please proceed off stage and be seated. Thank you. And with that, we'll conclude the morning session here. And now is the chance for you to network and communicate and also interact with other participants. We're prepared for you a networking session where you can enjoy the refreshments at the back. The afternoon session will begin at 3 p.m. and we'll have our session focusing on tips for intellectual property in scientific research. This is an important topic that can help you and impact your research career. Thank you again, and we'll see you at 2:30 for the registration to start for the afternoon session, and we'll see you in the afternoon. Thank you.